Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom, all praises, glory and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Ba'ashim, Rakapadash, that honors the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth and salutations to the sincere Akim and Aquatham and listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here with another quick and Lord's will is always an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, it's just going to be I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a continuation and add a little bit to my older brother's lesson. We did a lesson in regards to godly living, so I just wanted to add essentially my 2 cents on it. And Lord's will is always this lesson will be edifying, right? Um, so first off, let me just start off by actually defining the word godly. So here it says. In the Collins Dictionary, it says the definition of godly: a godly person is someone who is deeply religious and shows obedience to the rules of their religion. It says synonyms would include devout, religious, holy, righteous. Let's see what else they got here. It says God-fearing, pious, good, saintly. It says morally excellent, right? Because that's part of the definition when you go into when the scriptures describe how Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. One of those definitions, it's somebody who's upright, someone who has morals, character, scruples. Continuing on, it says someone who's honorable, worthy, ethical, upright, admirable, honest, righteous, exemplary, right, virtuous, trustworthy, altruistic, praiseworthy, estimable. It says virtuous, hallowed, saintly, right? And the saints are Israelites, right? It says spiritual. So pretty much, living, a separate life, right? And we know, coming back to our nationality, that we know that we're a holy and a separate people. As a matter of fact, I'll start off with that, right? Because we're not like these other people upon the face of the earth. We come from a bloodline that is above all these people. So this is Deuteronomy 7 verse 6, and it says, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord Yahweh thy power. The Lord Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth, right? So we're not like everybody else, right? We have righteous moral conduct, statutes, commandments, and we show that reverence by following those ways that the Lord commanded us to be, right? What is that? Let me get this here. We were actually having a conversation with an Israelite at the camp a couple of days ago, and he kept throwing around this definition of what love is. I forgot exactly what he was saying, and then and truth be told, a lot of our people don't know what, according to the scriptures, what true love actually is, right? So this is First John chapter 5 verse 2, and it says, by this we know that we love the children of the Most High, when we love the Most High and keep his commandments. For this is the love of the Most High, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous, right? So we keep these commandments. These are part of our laws, our customs, our regulations that promote a sense of conduct and reverence, right? It helps to promote a sense of holiness, uprightness, and keeping us separate. We don't dilly-dally with the ways of the heathen, because their ways and their customs are ungodly. They're vain. We're not supposed to take on those, their vibration, right? And this is a part of our problem, when we mingle amongst these heathens, our people, essentially, like for example, yesterday, it was so-called Easter Sunday, or also known as Ishtar or Asterith, right? Diana, Artemis. Our people get into these different ways, and these days, excuse me, those ways promote nothing but death, decay, and lifestyle and degeneracy. That's why the Lord called us a degenerate plant of a strange vine, because we're supposed to be a noble people. And a noble people doesn't act and behave like peasants, right? So, okay, so since I broke the ice on that, I just wanted to read this chapter. Just bear with me. Let me just find it. Okay, this is the book of Tobit, chapter 1. I'll start at verse 3 and I'll just jump around here. And it says, this is Tobit 1 and 3, and it says, "And I, Tobit, have walked in the ways of my life, in the ways of truth and justice. And I did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation, who came with me to Nineveh in the land of the Assyrians." Right, so Tobit, is describing, his life and some of the things that he did, in the midst of captivity. So you can draw some parallels between the way Tobit, walked and conducted himself in the midst of captivity, as well as how we conduct ourselves in the midst of this captivity, just to show you the parallels, right? The things that are written aforetime are written also for our learning. When you think about the way Jake conducts themselves, Jake literally conducts themselves as heathens. Like the scriptures say that the righteous is more excellency than his neighbor, but the ways of the wicked seduceth them. So Jake is, our people are seduced into ungodly thinking, ungodly lust. When you think about the kind of music that is pushed forth, I'm just using music as an example, because there's many different types of media that Esau uses to essentially ensnare our people and to get them to walk in an ungodly fashion. And when I say walk, I don't mean physically. When I say walk, I mean in the terms of the way they conduct themselves, because the scriptures also do say a man shall be known by his walk, right? So I'm going to jump down to verse 9, and it says, "Therefore," this is Tobit speaking, it says, it says, "Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, I married Anna of my own kindred, and of her I begat Tobias." And it says, verse 10, "And when we were carried away captives to Nineveh, all my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat of the bread of the Gentiles." And it says, "But I kept myself from eating, because I remembered Yahweh Bashim Yahushai with all my heart." Right? So he remembered the ways, the customs, the regulations, like he was bringing out here. Hold on, let me go back to it. Go back to the definition. 1 second. So it says morally excellent. It says upright. It says trustworthy, virtuous, God-fearing, right? So he remembered the ways that and the customs of the things that we were supposed to do as Israelite men. Let me go to Ecclesiastes. Where is it? 1 second. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13, and it says, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Right? So this is the whole duty, is to fear the Lord and keep his commandments, right? And just as I read, we keep these things because it keeps us separate, it keeps us holy, it keeps us in a straight way, right? And it also wards off evil. When you think about it, also, there are certain things that we won't do, right? We don't, because on top of that, we know that we're not heathens. We know that we're a righteous and noble people, right? This is our wisdom, like it says in the scriptures. This is our wisdom and our sight in the eyes of the other nations, to roughly paraphrase, right? The ways of the heathens, they're essentially, they dim your vibration as a people. Like, Israel doesn't understand that. It just promotes death, decay, degeneracy, and a life that doesn't actually bring you closer to the Lord, right? So where was I? So this is Tobit chapter 1. I'll read verse 12 again, and it says, because I remembered the Most High with all my heart, because that we have a dietary law. We know there's a certain things that we're supposed to eat and certain things that we're not supposed to eat. And just like in this captivity that Tobit's in, we know that in this captivity that we're under, being under Babylon the Great, and that beast system, NATO and the EU, these different countries, we know that there are things, even knowing that we're Israelites, that we're not supposed to eat, things that are do's and don'ts, right? We put off those different things that we used to eat, because we're essentially, now we're remembering ourselves. Where was I? Okay, verse 13. And the Most High gave me grace and favor before Enemasar, so that I was his purveyor. And I went into Media and left in trust with Gabriel, the brother of Gabrias, at Rages in the city of Media 10 talents of silver. Now when Emasar was dead, Sennacherib his son reigned in his stead, whose estate was troubled, so I could not go into Media. It says, verse 16, and in the time of Emasar, I gave many alms to my brethren, and gave my bread to the hungry, my clothes to the naked, and if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried him, right? So these are the kinds of works that he did, and just like in this time, we're in a situation where we need a physician, we need a savior, right? So we are doing particular works to essentially, for the Lord to be able to remember us in that rainy day and times of trouble, right? So let me get, because these are things that are counted, for righteousness, right? These are different works that he's performing, just like, in this time, you have the hopeful elect performing different righteous works, so to speak, so we can be remembered in times of trouble. Let me go to it 1 second. Where is it? Proverbs. Excuse me. Okay, this is Proverbs 11 verse 4, and it says, riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness can deliver it from death, right? So all these different riches that our people go after, and there's nothing wrong with physical riches. It's just that when they start to love it rather than love it more than the Most High, it becomes a problem. Because money is also a defense, but our people don't understand that, because essentially they go so far with it when they get it, to the point where they transgress, they become ungodly to get it, right? So they sacrifice, and compromise their character in order to get some physical riches in this world, right? So verse 5, it says, the righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall into his own wickedness. So the things that the wicked things that our people do, they fall into those different snares. They fall into those different traps because that's what they're sowing. They're sowing wicked things. Just like on the right hand side, we are sowing righteous things to be able to reap righteous fruit, works. When Yahushua said, a tree is known by its fruits, its works, that word there in the Greek is karpos, meaning deeds, works, right? Verse 6, and it says, the righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness, right? So, we don't go after the ways of transgressing against the Lord, right? We know that, yes, we do make mistakes, but, we ask for the Lord for forgiveness, and we keep moving, right? And then we shun those different ways that, those ways that are displeasing towards the Heavenly Father, right? Like, for example, adultery is one of the things that is very, very huge and common amongst our people in this captivity, because going back to the point in regards to the music, because it snares our people and entices them to do things that are displeasing towards the Heavenly Father and the Son. So there's actually another precept that came to mind when you mentioned feeding. Hold on. Okay, in verse 17 he said, and my clothes to the naked, and if I saw any of my nation dead, or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried them. So let me hold on, let me just grab this. Okay, this is Matthew chapter 25. I'll just start at 35 and just read down, and it says, Yahushua speaking, for I was hungry, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungry, and fed thee, and gave thee drink? When saw we a stranger, took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it to one of the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me. So that's promoting a sense of godly conduct, the way that we treat each other, the way that we conduct ourselves amongst our own kin, right? Brothers in the faith, we conduct ourselves in a certain way, and because essentially, and what produces that conduct is remembering the way Yahushua conducted himself, right? Because he is the benchmark, he is the cornerstone, he is the physician, he's the mediator, right? He is the author and the finisher, right? So he is the example of the template of how we model ourselves. The scriptures talk about put on therefore of the elect of the Most High, right? So those are the different attributes that we keep in mind, right, to be able to exemplify this and exemplify godly living, because that is, he is the example of being somebody who lived in a godly manner, right? Where was I? Okay, I'll just read a little bit more here, and it says, this is okay. So Tobit 1 verse 18. And it says, and if the king Sennacherib, had slain any when he was come and fled from Judea, I buried them privately. For in his wrath he killed many, but the bodies were not found when they were sought for of the king. And when one of the Ninevites went and complained to the king, that I buried them, I hid myself, understanding that I was sought to be put to death. I withdrew myself for fear. Then all my goods were forcibly taken away, neither was there anything left me beside my wife Anna and my son Tobias. Right, so this is just pretty much going to the conduct and the godly way that Tobit conducted himself, right? Because in the spirit, when you really think about it, a lot of our righteous forefathers, they exemplified Yahushai, right? Just like I was just reading, right? And just like the way we treat each other in a certain way because we're seeing Yahushai amongst each other. So I guess I'll just leave off with this last one. Okay, this is Romans 13, verse 12, and it says, actually, verse 13, and it says, let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife, and not in envying, So here in the AMP, it says, let us conduct ourselves properly as honorably in the light, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual promiscuity and irresponsibility, not in quarreling and jealousy. So we don't conduct ourselves in an improper manner, right? We walk uprightly. We conduct ourselves as people, because we are those people, right? This is the way that we're supposed to conduct ourselves, So that's pretty much it. I sincerely pray and hope that this lesson was edifying. I'd just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.